Hi, I'm Dr. Lisa Oliver, and I'm going to speak with you today about living well and the importance of advanced care planning, especially who is going to speak for you when you're unable to speak for yourself. This is just a little background about me. I am a life transitions educator and certified grief counselor, and I facilitate life transition series throughout the Atlanta, Georgia community and within the United States. And I have a YouTube channel, Dr. Lisa Talks About, which I address topics such as what not to say to someone that's died and why you should always go to the funeral. And I also have a book, Final Wishes, a workbook for planning a funeral, which is available both in print and Kindle editions on Amazon.com. But enough about me. Oh, I got to do the disclaimer. I am not a lawyer, nor am I a physician. And any information presented here is not meant to be legal or medical advice. If you need such advice, please seek counsel from a qualified and licensed lawyer or physician on the subject matter. And this presentation serves to educate the public related to death, dying, and bereavement. And all the content presented is based upon my research. So the topics I'm going to cover is what is advanced care planning, what's the process of it, its components, and known pitfalls of healthcare, power of attorney, and living wills. So the question may be, what is advanced care planning? And I must read it from the definition from the National Hospice and Palliative Care Organization because they do it better than any way I can paraphrase it. So here it is. Advanced care planning is making decisions about the care you would want to receive if you become unable to speak for yourself. These are your decisions to make, regardless of what you choose for your care, and the decisions are based upon your personal values, preferences, and discussions with your loved ones. So bottom line, this is about what you want, not what your sister thinks you should have, not what your children think you should have. This is about what you want. This is why it's so important that we think about what it is we want and we document it and we give that information to people that we trust to honor our wishes. And I'll tell you some stories about that soon, about people who didn't honor their loved ones' wishes. So here's the question. We talk about this living well. What does it mean to live well? Well, the truth of the matter is living well and the definition means different things to different people. To me, it means all my bills are paid. I can sit in my hammock, drink good wine, drink good coffee, and read a bunch of books. To someone else, it may be traveling. To someone else, it may be just watching TV. But again, living well means different things to different people. And I want to give you an example. This is my family. This is a fictional scenario, but this is our family in Maine in 2018. To your left is my husband, Jeff. At this point, we've been married 21 years. Our daughter, Caraway, in the back, at this point, she's 19, and our son, Justin, who's 20. Again, this is a fictional account, but this is things that happen in real life because you know what? Life comes at you fast. So we're leaving Maine and we're going to Atlanta, Georgia, going back home. And my husband, Jeff, is driving. And as he is driving, he is sideswiped or he goes into a jackknife tractor trailer. It happened so fast, it was no way he can avoid it. We get to the hospital. The rest of us have minor bumps and bruises, but Jeff is really messed up. His organs are crushed. His spleen is ruptured. The doctor does not see any signs of brain activity. And so the doctor is saying, Mrs. Oliver, it doesn't look like your husband's going to make it through the night. If he does make it through the night, he probably won't be the man who got in the car in the beginning. He'll probably be a vegetable. So you need to tell us, how do you want us to proceed? So here's me. I'm like, I've been married to my husband for 20-something years. We have to do everything possible. Insurance is not a problem. If we need to get transplants, if I need to send him somewhere else, we need to do everything we can to get my husband to be back to where he needs to be. And my daughter says, well, Ma, I talk to Dad sometimes about stuff like this. And, if Dad can't go to the Home Depot and putter around in the garden or mess with the car, he doesn't really have a life. I mean, I'm sure that Dad does not want to be laid up and can't do the things he want to do. And then our son is like, you know what? I'm not going to say I don't care, But as long as dad is breathing, I'm okay with it, because as long as dad is breathing, I still have a father. So I just want dad to just keep on living. Living well or whatever, quality of life, it doesn't matter. I just really need my dad to be my dad. So here we are. We're a close family, but right now we all have different ideas of what it means to live well. And if you think about it, all these ideas are based on our needs and not on Jeff's wants. And so we all forgot about Jeff in this scenario. And so here's the thing. The daughter was actually more in line with what Jeff wanted. But because Jeff never documented his advance directives and possibly handed it to his daughter versus the wife, because it seems like the daughter she's more objective about it. Because Jeff never documented it and gave it, it's left up to the wife, who does everything that she wants to do and not necessarily what the husband desired. So it's reasons like this why we need to have advance directives and an advanced care plan. And again, this was a fictional account, but I needed to show the realism of it, that life happens quick. So why is it important to have an advanced care plan? One is because it maximizes the likelihood that the medical care serves the patient. For example, if that scenario, if Jeff had an advanced directive, he would get the care that he wanted. It minimizes the likelihood of overtreatment or undertreatment. It reduces the likelihood of conflicts between the patient spokesperson, family members, and healthcare providers. It's something about having this piece of paper that is in black and white in the loved one's signature that brings the reality that this is how the loved one wanted to be treated. And it minimizes the burden of decision-making on the spokesperson or the family member. There's all these situations that always happen that, a family's in the ICU and someone has to make a decision on whether or not to pull the plug or to authorize certain therapy. And the thing of it is that you get conflict from the family members who don't think it should happen. The burden of the decision on the person who made a decision, they feel guilty. It's all these things, all these emotions that don't need to happen if we just take care of the little things. If we take care of the little things, the big things take care of themselves. So what is this process of advanced care planning? First, you need to think through what your values and what your preferences are in the event that you are unable to speak for yourself regarding your medical care. Then you need to talk about these values with a loved one, because the document does not handle everything, and you need to speak to someone so they'll know, they have a very good idea of how you feel regarding your health care. You need to document this with an advance directive. And then once you document it, you just don't put it away. How you feel now may not be the way you feel 5 years from now. So you want to periodically review and update it. And in addition, give that updated version to that person that you are trusting to honor your wishes. Now I'm going to go through, there's 3 components of the advanced care planning. There's the advanced directive for healthcare, physician's orders for life-sustaining treatment, and the statutory form power of attorney. And I'm going to go through each of these individually. So the advanced directive for healthcare. The advantage is you get the medical care you want and you avoid unnecessary suffering. And also you don't become over-medicated because you have identified what type of medical therapy you desire. It relieves your caregivers of that decision-making burden. Again, it's that piece of paper that's there that says, this is what my mama wanted. And it helps reduce the confusion and disagreement on your behalf. Essentially, again, this is a document that speaks for you when you are unable to speak for yourself. In this document, you're able to do 2 things. One, you're able to assign a power of attorney. This is the person that you name that will make all your decisions if you are unable or unwilling to make them. I mean, just because you have it written down doesn't mean you're willing to say, Okay, let's do it. But you hand that decision, you hand that power over to your power of attorney, and that person can make that decision for you. And then the second part of this advance directive for healthcare is the living will. This is the document that states your wishes regarding your healthcare. Now, I need to point this out. A power of attorney for healthcare should be different for the power of attorney for finances. And I know in some cases you may not be able to. Maybe you just have a child, or you just have a spouse, or, but I've spoken with estate planning attorneys, and they really recommend that you have the two. Now, you probably wondering why, but I'm going to tell you why. So let's say, for example, that Mr. Oliver decides that he wants to take on another woman, right? And so he has his girlfriend, and he really wants to divorce me, but he is too much mess. But here I go and I get sick. So at this point, Mr. Oliver is in charge of my healthcare and in charge of my finances. So guess what? So I get sick, and so Mr. Oliver, thoroughly motivated by the fact that he can get probably $250,000 if I die, decides to pull the plug because of $250,000. The wife is dead. You can start your new life with your side piece or whatever, right? And so that's why you don't want to have the same person in charge of your money that's in charge of your health. It's just what you call conflict of it. It's just not a good thing. So that's that on the advance directive for healthcare and why you shouldn't have the same person manage your healthcare and your finances. So I'm just going to go down and just really tell you about this document. So when we talk about the advance directive for healthcare, that's a legal document. And what that means is that if you become ill and the emergency medical technicians, the EMTs, come and care for you, even though you have an advance directive, they cannot do anything with it. An advance directive becomes activated when you go to the hospital and your attending physician and another physician both agree that you are unable to speak for yourself. And at that point is when the advance directive for healthcare becomes active. Who completes this document? Every individual over the age of 18 should have an advance directive. All competent adults. Now, in the event that we have someone who maybe has Down syndrome or they're alive, but they're not in full capacity. For example, maybe they have Alzheimer's or something. At that point, I suggest that you go to an estate planning attorney, and they can provide the proper guidance on how to complete this advance directive. Can this document appoint a surrogate decision maker? That's what I was talking about, which is the power of attorney. Yes, they can. But that surrogate decision maker cannot complete this document. Everyone needs to complete it for themselves. Can emergency personnel follow this document? No. Remember, I just said when the EMTs come to you, even though you have an advance directive, they cannot follow that because that's a legal document. It's not a medical document. Where should you keep it? No set location, but it should be where folks can find it. I'm thinking maybe if you're traveling, put it in your glove compartment. If you maybe put it behind your door, your front door, put it on the refrigerator, but put it places where folks can see, and definitely give it to that person who you want to be your power of attorney for healthcare. And you need to review it periodically. Again, how you feel now about something may not be the way you feel about it later. So that is the advance directive for healthcare. Now, for every, I was going to say for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, but that's not what I want to say. What I want to say is, you know what, you could do everything right, and there's still pitfalls and things still will happen. So I got 3 articles, all 3 are from the New York Times, about things that people, they thought they did the right thing, and actually they did, but it didn't work out the way it wanted to. The first one, to your left, is pitfalls for proxies. Now, when you pick if you pick a power of attorney, you need to make sure this person is able to put his or her needs aside to honor your wishes. There were 2 stories. One was of a husband and wife. They've been married 40-something years, and the wife became ill, and the husband was the power of attorney. Well, the husband decided, you know what? He got scared. What would I do without my wife? How am I going to live? What is going to happen? So what did the husband do? The husband ignored his wife's wishes and he tried to keep her alive. Well, she was in a coma and she came out of the coma. And when she found out what her husband had done, you know, there was a breach of trust there. He just did not honor her wishes because he was worried about what's he going to be if his wife died. The other example was of an elderly father and a son. And so the son was, they lived apart. The father was in the ICU. The son had the advanced directives and he had the power of attorney. But you know what? The son was like, you know, I have not given my father as much time as I should. So he started feeling guilty. So as you know, no hospital's going to let you sit there and get, you know, and get all your guilt and all the things you need. They're going to require you to do certain therapies and do certain tests and do certain procedures. So this son put his father through all these procedures that the father clearly stated he didn't want because the son needed to have more time with his father. So again, in this situation, the son, he put his needs and his guilt ahead of what the father wanted, honoring the father's wishes. The second one is the patients were saved. That's why the families are suing. So in addition to having a person who is able to honor your wishes and, you know, put their needs behind your wishes, you need to have someone who can be ferocious in the face of the medical establishment. For example, you know, for some reason, we see these people, these physicians, they have their white coat, they have their stethoscope, they're well-renowned, and we believe that they know what's best. You know, and maybe from a medicine standpoint and a therapy standpoint, and they have experience, they do know what's best. But you know what? You have that document. And while they may know what's best, you know what's best for that loved one who has entrusted you to honor his or her wishes. So you need a person who is not going to fall in the face of the medical establishment. You know, but you don't know what reason, you know, we're all human, you know, perhaps your loved one has a condition that the physician is doing research for. And so the doctor wants to research it for his own, you know, his own status, but you don't know why. But the thing is, you need to be able to stand in front of the physician or whomever and say, no, this is what my sister wanted. This is what my husband wanted. Now, a couple things. In the event that you do not feel as though the hospital, or not the hospital, but the physician is not listening to you, you have the option to request another physician. In addition, if you don't think that physician is listening to you, you have the option then to talk to the ethicist. Every hospital system has an ethicist. The ethicist is a person who is objective, and the person will listen to both sides and help the families in mediation. But I don't want you to think that you're by yourself in this situation when you have to make a decision and you feel as though that the doctors and the nurses and everyone is ganging up on you. They're not, well, they could be, but you have an option, and I want you to be able to use that option. Now, this last one here is my favorite absolute story, because this shows you can do everything and you still won't get what you want. So this guy here, and this happened in Miami. This is a gentleman who had heart disease, liver disease, and something else, I forget, but he had he had comorbidities, you know, and so he did not want to be resuscitated. So he tattooed, "Do not resuscitate." And in that circle, that's where he did his signature. So you know what happens. He gets sick, they find him unresponsive, they take him to the hospital, they cut off his clothes, and they see this across his collarbone. They didn't know what to do. They never seen anything like that before. In addition, his blood alcohol level was high. So they were thinking, well, Tom, maybe he got drunk and he lost the fight. He lost the bet and he had to get this done. And they just really didn't know what to do. So what they called the ethicist. And, you know, the ethicist thought about it. You know, they were saying, well, you know what? To lose a bet, a whole lot of pain to go through to get tattooed. Do not resuscitate. So what they did not try to resuscitate him, but they just let him die naturally. Now, while he was dying naturally, the hospital got an injunction. They were able to go to the gentleman's house, get his living will, and he died. He finally died the way he wanted. But it took a couple of days because no one, this man did everything and he still couldn't die just like when he wanted, as he was supposed to. So that just goes to show you that you can try to do everything and there's always going to be pitfalls. But now you know what some of them are right now. Next, I'm going to talk about the physician's order for life-sustaining treatment, known as a POLST. It originated in Oregon in '91. The Wellstar Health System here in Georgia started it in 2007, and the Georgia Department of Health implemented the POLST in 2012. Now, this document is a medical document. So this is just as if you're saying, this is just as if the EMT comes and there's a physician right there. This document does the EMTs need to do exactly what this document states. And who completes the document is a healthcare professional. In Georgia, it's a physician, but in Colorado, it can be a nurse practitioner. It really determines on the state on who needs to do the signing. Who should have one? Now, this is important. Any seriously ill or frail individual, it doesn't matter the age, that the healthcare professional would not be surprised if they were to expire within a year. So if you having this conversation, if you're at the doctor and the tests show that within a year you're expected to expire, you need to have one of these documents. And you and the physician, you and the healthcare professional will go through the document and identify how you want to be treated if you become ill. Now, this document, it communicates the specific medical orders. And while you can designate a power of attorney, a person as a power of attorney, or a surrogate decision maker, of course, that surrogate decision maker cannot do it for you. But the person is able to engage in the discussion. Like if you decide to go to the doctors and that person needs to come with you, and the three of you can determine, how you feel or what's best. How do you feel regarding your course of care? Can emergency personnel follow this document? Yes. If you are, for example, at the mall and you pass out and they look through your purse and they see this is just as if there's a physician saying, this is what you need to do. Ease in locating portability. The patient has the original, but there's also going to be a copy in the patient's medical record. Maybe you also want to keep it, make copies of it, have it in a packet that's behind your front door, put it on the top of the refrigerator, but it needs to be somewhere where it can be easily found. Now, in addition, for example, here in Georgia, we have the Yellow Dot Project. And what the Yellow Dot Project is, you have a packet and you have a yellow dot that's either going to be in your window, on the front door, or maybe on your car window. And the emergency personnel will know immediately that you have one, and they know to look for, and that they can give you the care that you've identified that you wanted. And like everything, you need to have a periodic review. A healthcare professional is responsible for reviewing this patient with the patient and the surrogate. So I just want to do a side-by-side comparison of the two, starting with the POLST on the left-hand side. The POLST is the type of document, it's a medical document. So again, when the EMTs come, they can immediately give you the care that you desire as based on the document. The Advanced Directive for Healthcare is a legal document, meaning that if something happens to you, the EMTs have to stabilize you, then take you to the hospital. And then at the hospital, the attending physician and another physician will determine if this advanced directive needs to be activated. Regarding the POLST, a healthcare professional will complete the document. With the advanced directive for healthcare, any individual should complete the document. Anyone over age 18. Who should have a pulse? Any seriously ill or frail individual. This healthcare provider believes that this person will expire within the year. That's when you'll have a pulse. With regard to the advanced directive for healthcare, all competent adults should have and should complete on their own an advanced directive for healthcare. In the situation where you may have incompetent adults, for example, an adult who has what's it called? Dementia, an adult with dementia, I advise that you go to a estate planning attorney, and they will guide you in the proper way to fill out an advanced directive for healthcare. What does this document communicate? In the physician's order for life-sustaining treatment, or PULSE, it communicates specific medical orders. On the advanced directive for healthcare, it just provides general treatment wishes, which is why it's really important that you speak to someone who you trust regarding what it is you want or what are your values, because that document cannot cover everything. You know, for example, with COVID-19, no one knew this was coming. So there was no way that on that advanced directive, you can say, you know, in the chance of a pandemic, do X, Y, Z. That's why it's really good to communicate with folks so they'll know what your wishes are. Can this document appoint surrogate decision makers, or in other words, a power of attorney? Yes, both documents can assign a power of attorney. However, on the advanced directive for healthcare, that person has power of attorney, cannot complete it for you. You have to complete it for yourself. Can emergency personnel follow this document? On a physician's orders for life-sustaining treatment, yes, they can, but they cannot regarding the advanced directive for healthcare. Ease in locating portability. Regarding the PULSE, the physician has the original copy. The copies in the patient has the original copy, but I keep on saying copy, but the copy is in the patient's medical record. And if the state has a registry, it would be in the state registry. Regarding the advanced directive, there's no set location. But again, with the PULSE and the advanced directive healthcare, you need to have it in a place that's easily to be found. Like I said, in a packet behind the door, on the refrigerator, somewhere where if someone comes in, they can see it. And it's not morbid, you know, because the thing is, we don't know. Life happens fast. And so people need to be able to get to the stuff that matters so that, you know, you can get the care that you need. And regarding periodic review, regarding the PULSE, the healthcare professional is responsible for reviewing it with the surrogate. And with regard to the advanced directive for healthcare, we all are responsible for not only changing it, but to get it to those people, so that make sure that the person with power of attorney has the most up-to-date document. Now, the last component of this advanced care planning is the financial power of attorney. And so what this does is authorize someone to act on your behalf in financial matters if you're no longer able to do so. Now, this is important because if you think about it, we all operate in like a 30-day cycle, right? And so in 30 days, you know, there's the rent's due, the car note's due, the insurance, it's all these things. And so what you want to do is have these things taken care of, so that's one less thing that your family has to worry about, you know, while they're trying to care for you. And I have a perfect example. This is John Singleton. He is an American director, producer. He was known as, in addition to being one of the very few Black men who were a director, he was the youngest in the 90s. He directed a movie called Boys in the Hood. So John Singleton, I think he was 48 years old, he had a stroke. So because he wasn't married, they allowed his mother to become given the power of attorney. So while the mother was trying to make decisions one of John's children were also trying to say, you know, dad is better, we shouldn't do this, we shouldn't do that, arguing with the grandmother essentially on John's health care. Not only that, but John, you know, he had an estate, he had people to pay, he had maid service, he had this, he had that. So John's mother had to go to the court to be considered the guardian of the estate. Well, one of John's children went against the mother, went against the grandmother, saying the grandmother shouldn't be in charge of the money. So then they're fighting. So all this infighting is going on when really everybody should be with John, holding his hands, telling stories, loving on each other. Because now let me make it clear. Now, once someone, if he had advance directives, his mother would have had a document that stated what John's level of care was. In addition, she would be given the financial power of attorney. That considers you have to go to the court, but it's like a process, it's a procedure. It's not like you're having, you know, emergency trial and folks are fighting over money. It doesn't make any sense. So again, all this opportunity for love and being together was lost because they were fighting over who should make the decisions and who should have the money. Now, John eventually dies. And then we're talking about the will. So John had 7 children, but John did not update his will after the 3rd child. So this, again, we're talking about this money. So he had like several baby mothers or wives. And so you have all these different fractions of people trying to get a piece of the money, and you know lawyers are involved. So again, all this money that could have went directly to his family is now going in legal fees and this, that, and the other. So again, I hate to use him as an example, but this is a perfect example of what happens when you do not take care of the little things. You know, you have family in disarray, you have money that is lost, and no one's really happy, right? So these are resources that one can use when you are thinking about advanced care planning, or even how to address, you know, talking to your family about it. When I do these seminars, it's amazing how many people come up to me and say, you know, what advice do you have to give? I'm trying to talk to my daughter. What advice do you give? I'm trying to talk to my children about it. They just don't want to hear it. So one example I have, in addition to all these, but one is the Conversation Project, and that's the this one in the middle. Ellen Goodman, she used to be a columnist for the Boston Globe, and she was very close to her mother, and they talked about everything. But one thing Ellen realized when her mother became ill and was unable to talk to her is that Ellen realized her and her mother never talked about what type of care they wanted, that the mother wanted. And so once her mother went on and died, she realized that this is really an important thing, to have conversations with your loved ones. So she came up with the Conversation Project. And there's space there. If you have someone who is mentally disabled, there's a kit there where you say, I need to talk to my son about this. And so it gives you documents, it gives you talking points. And so it's a very good start if you don't know how to broach a conversation with a loved one. It's the Conversation Project. And lastly, here are my references that I used to prepare this presentation. And so that's it. I am Dr. Lisa Oliver, and thank you for your time. Thank you. Let's stop.